Hello. It's good to see you all. And I do. Water is life. There's something awful here. Cedar. Old, hard trees. Deep roots. They know the long stories. They reach beneath them and help us put them in context. Let them go back to the earth. When it's needed and it works, it's sweet. Sage. Just the transformation of our days and ways. Spirit changes the resonance in rooms, the way we live. If we've had a fight, if we've cleaned up and stirred up dissonant energy, if we've just been in a bad mood, some of the resonance of these stays. You can leave a space, leave a home, thinking about something, and then when you come back, remember it. Part of our memories, part of our thoughts and emotions live in the spaces we inhabit. And Sage helps to reset this. Catalyze, bringing it back to the earth. Welcome. Welcome. Today, we are going to share some of the most incredible insights I've received. I'm going to take you beyond, very likely take you beyond what you've ever known. And there's some simple truths here, which I've lived with for so long. I felt like, what is this? Am I living in some kind of container ship, or like everybody else knows what's going on except me, and that's how all these people are just acting? How is it possible that I would learn these things, and if other people know them, they're not saying them on YouTube, which these days pretty extensive. The insights here are so simple, and yet it's an invitation, it's a necessary invitation into an entirely new way of being. And as ever, changing yourself is the kind of challenge that you don't always get a promise. You don't always get even a clear roadmap of what's going to happen. What we can do is lay some of the foundations, and as we live into them, it becomes a more constant part of our lives. In order to make it more constant, you really, really must let go. Hence the sage and the cedar. And I even invite you to consider having a monthly fire ceremony. Now, these days, I encourage you to consider that being quite small, simply because there's so much fire in the world that it's not great to accentuate the burning. You can use a candle. But when you sit by fire and you consciously relate to it with an awareness that we carry certain kinds of vibrations that really, they must be burned. They don't compost. They must be burned. And when they're burned, they're ripped apart down to the fabric of what they are. And in order to do this, we all have to be able to acknowledge our core part, our core role in 6 systems. Sick. See, there's an indulgence that I was raised in. I'm imagining most of you were raised in. And that indulgence is this: I'm a good person and other people are bad people. This is the first toxicity. Because when you go through your life imagining bad people, you carry that with you. Imagine it. You create it. What would happen if no one existed out there somewhere else to embody that role? This is scary, and it needs to be. So please understand, we do this sometimes, where I give you a bit of a disclaimer. The health on the other side of this awareness and acceptance is beyond measure. I am much happier since embracing this. Not only am I much happier, I'm much safer. I live a much safer life. In fact, I have very little, there's not much drama in my life anymore. The drama has been isolated down within my family. My son and daughter ripped apart our bed today and piled the pillows everywhere, and it did upset me a little bit. That's as bad as it gets right now. Pray that it remains so. The reason is simple. I am not generating a concept of evil, period. I am not generating a concept of evil. What that means is when I encounter deeply negative forces within myself, I own them as my own. And because I do that early in the process, they don't fester. And when they don't fester, they don't turn into the deeper kind of toxicity that must be burned in the manners I've described. When you own negativities early as your own, you don't need to project them on someone else. That's what it is to be aware of a world in which there's a serial killer somewhere, or there's a rapist somewhere on the loose, and you generate and participate in their existence. I'm not saying be okay with the fact that such people live. I'm saying don't need them to exist. And in order to access that, you have to realize that in all likelihood, you've been there. Engaging in the truth of our deep karma means accepting from the beginning of your engagement that it is likely that you have done something similar to the things that have been done to you. Doesn't mean it's okay. Doesn't mean you even deserve it. And be with that. We don't all deserve to suffer, even in the ways we've induced suffering. It does mean you don't get to fuel the rage. You don't get permission to hate. It's gone. We're taking it away from you right now. No more superhero dude, macho dad turned into like, I'm going to kill the bad guys. I'm going to beat them up on a bus. I'm going to beat them up on a plane. I'm going to beat them up on a building. I'm going to kick him off a skyscraper. I'm going to kick him out the parachute door. I'm going to dump hot gold on his head. I'm going to stab him through the eyes and his nose will pop out. What the fuck have we been doing? All these stories, it's a hell. It's a hellscape. Story after story after story after story, where the entire point of the story is to set up why someone is so bad they actually deserve to be killed in a malicious, gruesome, awesome way. And everybody can go, yay! This is bad karma. Really bad karma. This is the cycle of karma. You want to know how to change it? Face your shit. There are two major kinds of karmic relationships that I'd like to talk to you about. And if you can wrap your awareness around these two kinds of relationships, you're going to have a very different life. And I promise you, it is worth it and it is better, but it is uncomfortable to go through the change. You have to be careful for backlash. You have to be careful for backlash because it's tempting to shrink away from the truth of this. So I want you to watch for that because it's been a while. It's been a while for me. It's been over a decade since I made this change. So I don't even fully have my emotions present and what it feels like. So we need to do this together consider joining the sanctuary. It's the best way I know to try to create a circle where we're safe and we can talk about such things. One kind of karmic relationship exists through many lifetimes. You are living out karma with people who you've lived karma and shared karma with in other lives. Another is a karmic relationship within this lifetime. And the karmic relationships within this lifetime have a very different character. And we're going to talk about that character. And we're going to talk about how to cope with the emotional and mental transformation you go through when your spirit calls you to recognize yourself as something more than just this name and just this body. Misty, Erica, Anthony, Kinsey. Hey, oh, wow. Thank you so much for, you list them off. Gene, Nature, Alchemical Stardust, Jessica. Thank you for calling them to our presence. Angie, thank you for being here. Hearts to you. Hearts to you. Thank you for the likes. It's always appreciated. It does make me smile. This is the boundary, people. This is the boundary that I have not wanted to cross, okay? I haven't wanted this. I haven't wanted this, and I do. I totally want it. I want to teach you this. And we're going to do it today. Again, no human teacher taught me this. And part of the biggest part of the challenge here is me just stepping into this space where I'm like, I feel like I'm stepping beyond the edge of a cliff here. And I'm like, how is it possible that I understand such fundamental truths and like, it's not out there? And I mean, I have the simplicity, like Thoth has been teaching me this. When he started doing this, I was under the impression that there were 20 other people in the world he was doing the same thing with. And apparently they're not on YouTube. I would prefer the company, to be honest with you. I would prefer the company because this rips up so much of what is normal to people. And rather than drag it out much longer, I'm just going to put it to you very simply. A lot falls apart when you firmly embrace the truth of your existence beyond this lifetime. And it starts to fall apart before something else makes sense. So in this dissolution, there is a degree of chaos, and we have to kind of chart paths through this chaos, but it's not the same path for everybody. So I can lay out, I can tell you about how I've done this. And I can throw you lines. I can keep making videos that hopefully you can hold as guidance through this chaos. But the reality is, as you change, it affects the other people in your lives. And as you affect the other people, they didn't necessarily sign up for these. So there's a ripple effect. But the truth is, this is happening to folks anyway. And what I can share with you in this way is medicine for what happens. When you firmly embrace the truth that you have been mates with other people, there's a mental transformation that's beyond compare. It's very confusing because you will be able to see in a child, in someone of the same gender, in someone who's 90, the presence of someone who may have been your partner. The absolute guidance in this is that you have to have the internal resolve to not allow yourself to be dragged around by these feelings. And when you look at a wide range of the wreckage, really, of New Age traditions over the past several decades, people bring the energy to a certain point and they go a little haywire. And the teachers go haywire. The teachers go haywire with them and lead them right over a cliff. And this is why. because they're evoking more energy, but they're not going far enough. You're not going into the truth of the recognition that, no, really, really, you are this person. Now you know someone, you're friends with them, and yet you've seen yourself in another life as their brother. Now you know someone, you're friends with them, and you've seen someone in another life as your partner. You'll remember the sexuality more vividly than many other forces. And you have to be able to be present with that and be like, hi, you're beautiful. Nothing more. Nothing more. If you get lost in a sense that, oh my God, there's such a strong attraction and we have to explore this. Shouldn't we be polyamorous? Like we should all just share together. That's what's happening. People are getting into this, they're evoking it, and then they're just like, yeah, let's just all sleep together. And they create mad chaos. And they create mad chaos because the creature in you does not want to do that. The creature in you needs the security of clear boundaries. Why? Because mating's incredible alchemical magic. It is being deeply abused and has been for decades in our culture. It's not revered. People don't know how to consider it as sacred without feeling like they're being boring. I assure you, this is not boring. When you get in touch with the incredible truth, it's daunting. I know someone who is my lover as a Maya. The stories are exquisite. It's just like, oh, I can feel it. I can feel our fights. I can feel our arguments. We couldn't stay living together because the intensities were intense. To know yourself as another person in this way, you have to allow yourself to feel those passions, and you have to know them as something more than a fantasy. Because if you just think of it as a fantasy, you will get lost in the sense that you have to live that out now. And once you do that, you will shred your ability to be a partner with someone else as a human now. So here's the simple, basic guidance, and I'm going to go right there. All right. Don't fantasize a lot. Don't go nuts with this. You have to be able to control this force. And controlling means maybe not controlling. Controlling means channeling it. The United States alone is littered with yogic teachers who have started to teach people this, not fully taught them, and then told them to practice brahmacharya. It doesn't work in my experience, not on a consistent basis. Brahmacharya means no sexual expression. I've never seen a community in which the teachers are effectively able to teach their students to do that. So it's great medicine for individuals in the right place. But in my experience, you have to know that from within. A teacher can't do it. But that's how some teachers try to stop this process from going haywire, because everyone starts looking around, and guess what? Here's the dicey part. You're starting to get in touch with yourself as a vivid presence in another era. You're starting to know your spirit. You're starting to know your attitude, your personality. You know it is yourself, sort of, but it's different. You're someone maybe you've wanted to be, or it feels so familiar in a different way that you can't even remember why you would ever have changed it. You don't know for sure if the people around you were really there with you. You can't just have a hint of it and rest on it as if it's true. It's really confusing to discern whether it's true. You're going to start mixing and matching. You'll start thinking someone was there in another lifetime with you, but maybe not. Maybe it wasn't really them, but it's more convenient to believe that because you're also avoiding the terrible ending in that life, the terrible ending where one of you died in violence. See, his story is littered with negative experiences for a reason. Everything we know of as the historical timeline has been designed to process karma, which means, how shall I say? It's not like it was okay to kill each other. It means That was going to happen. So the contexts were created in which we could learn to live and love more than hate. That's as good as it could be for thousands of years to have a context to learn to live and love each other, ideally more than we hated each other. There was no way to fully contain the hatreds. The point is to process the karma and learn how to recognize them, feel them, and then rechannel them. You can't rechannel them if you can't feel them. The point is to take a hatred that's bigger than yourself and to become something bigger than the hatred. And this brings us to the other kind of karmic relationship. Karmic relationships within this life. So here, let's talk about what they have in common. And first of all, to let you know I'm doing this, this is stuff that I've known. I have not known how to teach it, and much of it is, this is my first attempt. So I pray, I tune in, I say, Thoth, what? And I get yeses and nos. Moreover, when I talk about someone else who has been my lover in another era, I tune into them because I can talk to their higher self. And I say, is it okay for me to share this? And I get a no plenty of times. And I just, you don't see this happening. The path through this is going to be different for everyone. So we're going to do this again, perhaps. And please carry your questions because they matter a lot. It may well show me a better path on how to teach it and help someone else who really is having a similar kind of confusion and needs you to open the door for us to connect and map a course through. So let's be technical about what's the same. We're talking about this repeatedly in other videos that I'm producing right now. So you're going to see this set again because Thoth did make this very clear to me recently in a way that sort of takes me to the next level. You can have a neutral energy. Something can happen to that energy. Now it's volatile. It's an accident. A stone falls and it hurts you. Still a trauma. There's a wound that has a resonance. A fight can happen. Someone can get hit. Someone can get hurt badly. Trauma. There's a wound. That wounded energy can happen when you don't get something you want. If you're investing your entire reality into like getting a new position, like a new job, and then someone else gets it from you, you're left with a trauma, a wound. It's energy. When you look at that energy, this is karma. What was your investment in creating that? And the point is, things don't happen once. You're going to keep reliving the same patterns that created that wounded energy over and over and over again until you learn to move through them in a way that changes the course. One of the best ways to do that is to reverse spins. So if you take the vibration as it is, you can split it and make it two spins that rotate in opposite ways. The reason this is valuable is if two spins operate in opposite ways, they negate each other. They can start as a negation. So they're not fundamentally, this is algebra. It's spiritual algebra. It's kind of cool. You know, you could x plus 3 equals 17. So you can say -3, x plus 3 equals 17. You can say -3 and you say plus 3 negates the 3. So now it's just x equals 20. Well, when you allow yourself to work with an energy a little bit, you start to gain influence over it. So you can't just get rid of stuff. I can't tell you how many people say, how do I get rid of this? How do I let go of this? You don't get to just let go of pain. You don't get to just let go of karma. It doesn't work like that. It's yours. That's the point. It's yours. So you have to change it. And when you change it, you're working with spin because spin is what contains ongoing energies. But if these spins are working out of sequence, out of harmony with the rest of your life, that's kind of the beginning of what we'd call bad karma. You're trying to live one way and you've got this other karma that's kind of like going on. So what do? You essentially, without having to do anything, are calling for anyone else who can work with this karma. Now, the people you generate the karma with, if it's strong enough karma, if it's a strong enough negative vibration, are likely going to be people who you go through the course of many lifetimes with. But within a lifetime, there are key moments when basically, if you take two people who used to fight so much and then one of them killed the other, if you just put them right back together, likely the equation has not been changed. So you can carry your negative karma with something, a divine guidance usually, that says, don't try yet. Don't be near that person. You won't make it better. It'll just become the same story. And thus you're holding this with a negation. And in that negation, there's a force from both of you pushing against each other. That is a change. You are both saying no to the karma in a way that changes the equation. Now you've got something that isn't quite as raw. You've taken the edge off of it. What you've got left is resonating. It's resonating. Guess what? This is more real than any shit Match.com is ever going to create. This is spiritual dating. And it works much better when you believe in it. You will attract someone who can work with that karma. Your relationship to that karma is more than just your profile. Your relationship to that karma is the magnetism you bear. Anybody have 3 relationships that have similar problems? This is why. This is why. Those people are likely not people who you've had multiple lifetimes with. They might be, but there's a high chance that what you've done is there are wide ranges of freedom that we get in this lifetime to exist in this lifetime, to write a new story, to meet people who we've never met before and maybe won't meet again in any other lives. There's space. It's not everything. Everything is not fated. So when you, with that space, set the strong commitment, I really want to heal. What can I do? I really want to heal. What can I do? You're changing your relationship. And that's like your profile. Your profile on your karma is saying, who else wants to heal this kind of nasty shit with me? Who else wants to heal this kind of nasty shit with me? So you know what's going to happen? You're going to find someone who roughly reflects or complements. So you're going like this and they're going like this. They roughly reflect or complement some relationship to that karma with you. And they're going to come closer. And you might be like, they're an asshole, not realizing that you're an asshole too. And because you can't accept that you're an asshole too, that's all you're going to do with that person. You just kick them some shit. And their profile will say in a comment on your profile, this person does not take responsibility for their shit. I want somebody who's going to take responsibility for this. And they're going to leave. And they're going to be more likely to make progress because they were willing to take responsibility. Whereas you are trying to say, they are toxic. I don't spend time with toxic people anymore. I'm above toxic people now. I've gotten rid of my karma by dumping it on other people, which is pretty fucking toxic. Do you get this? The critical first step here is there are no murderers who are worse than you. There are no rapists who are worse than you. You were a raping murderer in Egypt. You raped the soldiers who were bleeding on the ground. You were the worst kind of person imaginable. You raped and impregnated women from another community once your army killed everybody else. If you don't consider that maybe that was you, you don't get Earth. That's how raw you got to be. And then you take your concept of the most evil people alive right now. And, if it's too close, if it hurts, just imagine they're in Africa and they look different than you. Do you see how this works? We have mechanisms in our lives to make what we think of as evil be somewhere else. And that's not the best way to live a life without evil. You're going to have to keep thinking about it. You're going to have to do that every day. Every day you're going to have to think about it because it's not true. It's yours. It's your evil. I had haunting memories of a knife and blood going through my head for years. It was so bad. I was like, holy shit. Like, I would not be able to think about other things I was doing. I've never been even close to that violent. I've taken punches in life with a stiff jaw and stared at them, by the way. But I haven't ever punched someone in this life. I haven't had to. I haven't run from it either. But I knew myself as someone who stabbed. And I avoided it. I shrank from it. I hid from it here. I hid from it there. And I finally gave in. And I went back to an old therapist. She led me through a past life regression in which I saw myself killing someone who I loved after years of terrible fights. And when I went home that day, I bawled and screamed in a way I've never experienced. There was no possibility that I was making this shit up. It's just, sometimes you trust things and it's like, I could argue with this. And if I do, I'm going to be arguing with this for the rest of my life. And I was wailing and begging to see their face one more time. Begging to see their face one more time. It was one of the worst days of my life. It was awful. It's fucking awful. Living out the grief and guilt and agony and knowing that I lived for decades after that with this incredible, I was tortured. Guess what? After that, I was immune to thinking other people are assholes. It's an incredible experience. Immune. I'm not even particularly afraid of other people. I'm cautious. I pick up on signs that someone could be volatile, and largely I have a very easy, natural, graceful ability to just be like, no, I don't think I'm going to be part of that. I've stared at people who have killed people repeatedly, and they've threatened me. Since then. And I think it was Gaia's way of showing me how immune I am on a certain level. Now, I don't want to ride that with ego. I'm just telling you, when I stare at someone else who I know is capable of murder, I can nonetheless see a human being. And I don't see someone who's less than me. I'm seeing them with compassion, like, don't do it. Don't be there. You don't want this. You don't want to fuel this hatred. You don't want to fuel this resentment. And I'm telling you that. You don't want this. You don't want to fuel this hatred. You don't want to fuel this resentment. Did they hurt you badly? Yeah. No shit. They hurt you really badly. What could you have done differently? See, that's the only point. This isn't the same as blaming yourself. That is a different dynamic. When people blame themselves in a way that they think they're supposed to suffer, that's a sojourn of reality. You don't do that from an awareness of multiple lifetimes. You do that when you're lost in almost a child mind, thinking that you somehow cause all the negativity around you. And if you're living in such a space, please hear me. This is about responsibility. What is your ability to respond? If you've lived through a very negative equation, how can you consider the same dynamic and act differently? Act differently in a way that makes it better, because you must presume that you're going to face a similar karma again. And when you do, can you prepare yourself so that you will make different decisions? I had a relationship in this life where this woman was so fucking mean to me. Oh my God. She could scream at me in a way that was just scathing. She would verbalize all my worst self-images. And it was very difficult not to be like, I'm in an abusive relationship. She was able to relentlessly come back to me again and again and be like, I'm freaking out on you. And a big part of the reason I'm freaking out on you is because you are so out of touch with the world and you're making terrible decisions and nothing's reaching you. Nothing was reaching me. I was very lost. I was completely unaware that I could. This is well before I faced childhood trauma. I was completely unaware that I carried trauma. I always thought that other people were the sick ones. I tried to help people when they weren't asking for help. I would bring up their problems when they weren't thinking about their problems. And I'd be like, but I'm being nice to you. I'm supporting you. No, I wasn't fucking supporting her. She was okay. I was reminding her of her pain when she wasn't feeling her pain. And she would freak out on me. And then I'd be like, oh my God, she's so abusive. What's wrong with her? No, I was violating her space. When I was hurting, I was trying to help her and she didn't need help. I was projecting my vulnerability on her and then trying to take care of it. It's a very invasive dynamic. It's extremely confusing, particularly for people who are trying to heal. It's deep. And when she'd freak out on me, I have a choice. I could say she's an abusive bitch. And I had plenty of support. Plenty of people would back me up and encourage understanding it that way. This is my challenge to you. How do you retain memories of other people in such a negative light? Now, notice what I'm doing. I'm not saying I deserved to be treated poorly. I'm not saying I deserved to have all my insecurities thrown in my face. And I was proud of myself when I left her. She was really fucking mean. But I wasn't nearly as good for her as I thought I was. I was not nearly as good. I thought I was this nicest, kindest, strong guy. It was this great combination of strong and kind both. You know, I was transcending nice guy, but I was still a nice guy. And I had this whole articulate concept of who I was. I was mad chaos. I was very confusing. I was extremely out of touch. I had a hugely difficult time making consistent choices. None of these things are saying it was my fault. None of these things are saying I deserved to suffer. It's just I responded to that painful, devastating experience in a way that made me more well. And it took more responsibility for the equation and it stopped resenting her. I'm not kicking her shit. I tell stories like this every once in a while on YouTube and I'm honoring her. I got better with her and I believe she got better with me. When you take your opportunities and make it a little bit better, and you avoid self-righteous understandings about you're the good guy and they're the bad guy, which, by the way, always comes with a shadow interpretation that you're actually the bad guy and you're awful and you hate yourself. It's always a polarized, bipolar dynamic within your mind. If you think someone else is the evil bad guy, you have a shadow side that thinks you're the bad guy. You got to erase this shit. You got to stop it. Just stop it. And you know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to at least half of you. Stop it. Cut it out. You've killed people in another life. You've been awful. It's not always one for one, but start there. If you've experienced something terrible in this life, consider that maybe you've done that to someone else. Consider it. Consider that maybe you've done that to someone else. And once you generate that maybe, you're in a space where you get a different kind of leverage over reality. You stop being quite as self-righteous and you get into a space where it's like, I wonder why life is showing me this now. Now, make no mistake, you want to know one of the most amazing elements of karma? Say no. Say no. One of the most amazing steps you can take is what I was communicating earlier. You say, no, I refuse to invest my heart into a dynamic like this. I know it's really bad for me. But you say it like that. You don't say, I refuse to be with an abusive, toxic human being. Stop it. Narcissist is the new thing, right? So everyone else is a narcissist. I swear to God, more than 50% of the people who tell you what a narcissist is look an awful lot like narcissists to me. We're all fucking suffering. And if you're in deep karma with someone else, why are you there? You want to know the surest sign that you're above or beyond a certain kind of karma? Say no. Say no to the relationship if it gets too bad. Say no. And when you walk away, do you attract someone else like that or not? If you attract someone else like that, you might want to start to pay attention to the fact that you're the common denominator here. Do you get that? Because we're looking backwards. Do you have any idea how much healing you all could do? We all, but I'm working on this in a different way here. Do you have any idea how much healing a human being can do when you look backwards and reinterpret your past? And you say, wow, if you had 3 relationships with similar problems, you're the common denominator. How are you going to change it? This is threading the needle, people. You are evil, you're not evil. You are abusive, you're not abusive. You are the problem, you're not the problem. It's all shared. Negative karma is shared. And when you let your natural presence resonate in a way that 2 people disappeared when I said take more responsibility. I love it. Go with God. Love wants you to heal. And the love that's bigger than this pain, that says, I'm going to be with you and we're going to make this better somehow, that's who someone really is. That's the window. That's the bigger, that's your soul. That is your soul seeing over this whole world, seeing the many lives that you've lived, saying, how are we going to make this better? Imagine someone who has killed you and imagine saying, okay, we're going to try again. Holy fuck. You're going to try again? Yeah, you're going to try again. Imagine someone you've killed. What kind of forgiveness needs to be present in order for you to release that kind of karma? Well, one of the most critical and awful truths here is you have to go into it. You have to be in a situation where you experience the same kind of rage and then you don't fucking do it. That's the beauty of healing on earth. You learn to experience the same kind of feelings and you don't do it. You don't do it. So now you've created with your will, with your life force now, you've generated an energy that's bigger than the hatred. And you've turned it off and it hasn't erupted in violence. That's good karma. And that's why we have to keep living these things again and again until, I hate to break it to you, but usually it's unpredictable. I got to pause there. It's unpredictable. Sometimes it just takes once going into the same kind of feeling and making a different choice. And the same exists within lifetimes. So I want you to be present to the fact that some of the relationships that you've had in this life are likely people, beings who you will never see again in another life. And the gift that they've given you is to change the equation. See, I know it's been painful. I care more than you think. But the reality is you can't hold a sense that you're fundamentally better than people who've hurt you or fundamentally worse. Karma is balanced. When you have worked out as much as you have available with someone else, you get to say no and you can let go and you won't re-experience those same patterns in the same way. And as a result, when you do have a rendezvous, and we have scripted rendezvous at specific times with people who we do have contracts with across lifetimes. And we know when we're 27, we're going to meet up. And from 20 to 20, from 18, from wherever you start dating or playing around until 27, you're going to try to turn yourself into a different kind of person so you can have a new relationship with this person. I met my wife when I was 39. When I met her, I knew we were getting married. It was an earthquake. I know we scripted it. And I had a lot of work to do. And until I met her, I went through some very difficult times. And it was very, very tempting for me to think that I was the good guy. and that I was so mistreated and why. And nothing changed until I started to say, I think I've got a lot more to learn than I accept. I think I've got a lot more to become aware of than I thought. And none of it worked until I understood the perspective of many lifetimes. None of it worked. You could almost take that as a kind of spiritual science, a signatist. I love it. Be a signatist. The world gives you signs that you're in progress. You're in true deep healing. Embrace them for what they are. There's a click that happens when your mental state aligns. Your mind, when you align your ideas about reality with the truth, there's something that comes into coherence. And that coherence it has its own integrity. It begins to resonate. And so at the very least, you're closer to the truth as you accept certain things. From there, are you going to integrate it or not? Because the invitation is taking you past the limits of what you've known. And you have to learn to be at peace. You have to learn to, if you want to be in a monogamous relationship, and by the way, I really do encourage it. I have not seen health in anyone really who sleeps around a lot. I think there's a space for it as a phase in your life. As a way of life, forgive me, I'm not judging anybody, but the way it affects our creatureness is pretty deep. So as you get in touch with the fact that other people have been your mates, you have to be able to feel that. Know yourself as this other person who's been in love with someone else, who's been in passion with someone else, and somehow be a bigger presence in this life now. So you can literally experience that and smile. When I was young, if I had a certain level of intensity, I was like, well, it must be fate. I have, there's such a deep love here. I could be enthralled for ages. But I had no context for why I had such strong feelings. When you awaken these forces, you have to be able to stay present with great intensities without thinking you have to act on it or make your fantasies real. And I say again, be careful about how you fantasize, particularly sexually, in this, because the power in it is intense. Allow yourself to connect with the memory of this other presence, but hold it with restraint, because you're going to start attracting all sorts of other people now who are simply promiscuous in a way that is designed to distract from pain. And it'll rechannel all your energy. It'll rechannel your energy in a way that's very confusing. For what it's worth, I've found that as a guidance, as an ongoing rule, you don't really want to have sex more than twice a week, week after week after week. You're going to deplete yourself. And that same goes for fantasizing sex. So the depletion for men and women, this is not just a pure semen situation here. When you go into that space, you're evoking a particular kind of resonance and presence. And there's a phase, there are big transitions where maybe you're going to be fountaining and flowering for a little while. There can be health in that. But as a way of life, you don't want this to just keep going and try your circuits in a way that makes you unable to feel other things. So as you go into this, as you allow these feelings to emerge, your kundalini rises. They're usually happening at the same time. And when your kundalini is rising, you got to get it past your sacral. Okay, you've got to get it up into your navel. You got to get it into your heart. And if you can't get it to your heart, don't. The truth about transcendent relationships, where you're starting to remember someone as your mate in another life, is that you remember that here. The memories reach your heart if it's true, I promise you. All you have to do is a basic litmus test is if you're feeling something incredible and intense and you don't feel it in your heart, you might want to second guess what's going on. This kind of scrutiny that you give reality is the process of changing karma. You want to be able to feel strong things. And that's why we're talking about it maybe even more bluntly than I expected to. You want to be able to feel strong things, passion of every sort, and restrain it. Restrain it. Restrain it and then maybe express it later. It'll be better if it's healthy. restrain it, and then don't express it. It'll be rechanneled into the desire to walk 10 miles. Let me tell you this as a rude awakening. One of the more, I just told my friends this, I'd forgotten this happened. It was so intense that I forgot it happened. I think I might have told you guys this, but I'm going to tell you again. I just told some friends, and I don't remember telling anyone body to body. Like, YouTube is so crazy. It's like, it's an incredible intimacy, you guys. Once I was with a woman who had a dog, and I mean, I was with her. He felt like my dog. We had thoughts of staying together for sure, repeatedly. And we went to a homestead, like out west in the United States. Spaces are bigger. So this was in a town, but it had a big space, big high fences. And we went in the fence and we shut the door, this giant fence, and this other dog jumped on our dog and started humping it. And it was rough. Our dog did not want it. Our dog was like scooching around trying to get away. I don't know what came over me, but I took this other dog. It was a big dog. It wasn't the biggest dog, but it was tough. It was tight. Had short hair. It was a guard dog of some sort. I flipped the fucking dog and I put my forearm on its neck and I leaned deep. And I held it down until he stopped trying to open its mouth. Big fucking teeth. And I talked to it. You're going to stop now. You're going to stop now. You're going to hold this. You're going to stop. And when I let you up, you are not going to touch our dog. His name was Yogi, our dog. Bless you. He's passed. Must have been a minute. That dog got up and it ran full bore and jumped in the pond. It swam out of the pond, ran around in a circle and jumped in the pond again. 28 times. 28 times. 28 fucking times. This dog ran around, jumped off a bank, leaped into the pond, swam across the pond, ran around, jumped in the pond, leaped in. Fucking run. Do yoga. If you can't do an hour of yoga, stop touching yourself. And I mean this, obviously this is more of a problem for boys. And this is me unleashing because I'm having ongoing guidance that men and boys need more of this. It's going to take more than conservative men who essentially want to keep dominating women to tell boys to stop masturbating and playing computer games. Stop masturbating and playing computer games. Have higher standards. Touch yourself with grace, respect, and have a transcendent reverence for what we are. Because when energy rises in you, there are reasons it's rising. And when it keeps rising, we're talking through the body. And it goes all the way out your crown. And when you get energy to do this, you still want to share passion. And it's coming from a much deeper and more conscious space. And you're able to feel incredible intensities without feeling like you have to live them out, without trying to grab them or own them. You're just like, whoa, that's beautiful. And I'm saying that because you begin to realize that any attraction and intensity you feel is from you as well. You don't project all your beauty onto other people anymore. You recognize that when connections click, this is you creating it also. So you're able to just breathe in the presence of intensity. And as you get good at this, a subtle window begins to open. You have to be able to hold these things still. You have to be in maybe and question what is healthy. Because this is the same intensity and dynamic that enables you to go into what feels like hatred. There's a reason lovers can hate each other, because the same energy can be channeled in a different way. The same energy that it goes towards union can push towards resentment and want distance. So that energy, you need to know how to channel it in multiple ways. And the best place to begin is wherever you are. Wherever you are, you're carrying understandings from the past. It's time to clean up. What is it going to take to let people go who've hurt you? What is it going to take to simply rest in the question, what is my karma and what do I need to do to heal it and make it more well? And as you ask this question on a regular basis, you're going to start to unveil the distinction between people who've been in your life for a chapter or even an event, and people who've been in your life and they've been in your lives before. As you know these, as you recognize it, take it easy, because even then, there's a whole new phase where you will remember yourself as something, and it will be tempting to think you know what happened, to think that your memories are the truth. But there is an incredible depth you got to go to get into the real reality. An incredible depth where the truth is true. You don't need to argue about it. You can't make it up. You can't just play around with saying, yeah, oh my God, I met this woman at the festival. We looked into each other's eyes. I think I had a past lifetime with her. Chill the fuck out. Just maybe you had too much sun and smoked too much pot. Like, it takes a lot of nuance and a deep discipline to unveil the truth to yourself in these ways. And in the middle, there's this chaos. And in this chaos, you got to take care of yourself. It's all designed to bring you back to this body, back into your feelings, and back into learning how to channel intentionally and consciously with the world around you. That's it. I go right to, bless your heart, Erica. I think it's relaxing to think I was a bad guy. There's a lot of stress in thinking you are better than others. Yes, indeed. That's a beautiful statement. And it is that you've got it, Erica, like you're on it. Because the relaxation is about bringing truth into harmony, right? To any level. Like I really thought I was the good guy in most situations. And so when I went through this process of embracing and understanding myself as the one who's been so awful, there was this incredible coherence that came in where I was like, wow, it's stressful to constantly judge others. It's stressful. You're imposing your own perception. You're projecting it into the world, but the world doesn't conform to our projections. So it's literally stressful. You're like trying to force the reality to mirror what you think it is, and it's not going to conform because you made that. It's exhausting. So it's so relieving to accept this overall truth and then to rest in this deeper space. It's beyond, Nietzsche went crazy, people. Like, I don't know if you care about philosophers and stuff when you look at the back. Nietzsche went crazy when he started to learn this shit. He said beyond good and evil, and he was getting into the ground underpinnings of this. And when I read Nietzsche, Beyond Good and Evil, my mind blew open and I fucking got the beginning of this and it freaked me out. And I was just obsessed with wanting to learn more. And it's a long time since Nietzsche. So other people have contributed to creating a bridge, to believing that ultimately, don't hold it. Don't hold it. You're not the good guy and the bad guy without being the good guy and the bad guy. You got to know yourself as both. And the only way to fully embrace it is you're probably pretty damn good in this life, right? Most of you have probably been kinder than you've known in yourself. You've known rages that you didn't express on a regular basis. But part of the reason that's possible even is that you have lived those out much worse in another life, and you're living now in the fruit of having changed that. Respect yourself for all the change you've made. Honor yourself, appreciate that, but have deep compassion for others. And when you stare at them, keep a commitment not to project. Really matters. It'll keep you free. It'll keep you much, much more free. Bless you, Erica. Thank you for being here. I am going to bless you, Anthony. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm glad to know it's you. I've always had this. I didn't know it was you. I hope you don't mind me. I'm so sorry. I won't keep repeating your name if you don't want me to, but I'm glad to know it's you. It's good to have you here. It's good to have you all here. This is a really, this went a lot smoother than I anticipated. And, I think it's really important that I find a way to bridge the gap on all these explanations. Really, I would hope that this just opened far more questions than anything else. Thank you, Anthony. I hope this opened a lot of questions. So please be prepared with them. Find a way to ask them to me directly. You're welcome to do it anonymously. I want to start making videos and talking more about these themes because I feel there's a whole world to unveil and welcome each other into. And it's time. So I'm going to see you in the sanctuary quite soon. I'm going to have to take a little bit of a break. I think I changed the permissions to make it open. So let's see if it worked. Thank you so much, Trevor. Trevor did an unbelievable job. He mapped it out. He made a graphical guide for me to figure out the settings because I haven't been able to do it. I have a terrible time with interfaces. It hurts badly, my eyes, trying to figure shit out when I don't know where to look. And every time I look differently. Thank you, Trevor. I think I changed the permissions for the sanctuary, for those of you who are in the sanctuary for our readings. So you should be able to just walk in and I'll be there in a couple minutes. And I love you all very much. Have a good week.